Good day. We're going to do lesson plan number 3, grade 7, term 2, on equivalent fractions. Please note that this is also a revision lesson. It also linked to worksheet 31 in the DBE book, just showing you then the link to the DBE book. And then what we have is we have our caps, the content that we need to cover. Then we have the dictionary on equivalent fractions. Here is a nice example, a very nice resource or source. It's Maths is Fun, that can be used by you or by parents. And then what we're going to do is, for today, we're going to do the mental mathematics. So you're going to pause here, and then the learner is going to answer orally or going to write down the answers. Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to reveal the answers. You can pause again, and then you can mark it. Okay, let's then start with the day's work. So at first, what we're going to do is we're just going to work with the fraction chart. I'm just going to go where it's a bit more enlarged. And what you need to do is you need to find then 1/2. And then you need to ask yourself, so maybe do this in pairs if you've got an adult or a brother or a sister, at school, maybe a friend, where you're going to ask each other these questions. If I've got 1/2, what other fractions are equal to this? Now 1/2, we got 2/4, 3 6s, 4 8s, 5 10s, and 6 12s. So those are all equal to 1/2. Now, what are all the fractions equal to quarters? 2/4, 3/4. So at this stage, pause here and then investigate the board by asking these type of questions to each other. I'm going to go back then, and then I'm going to go through a few of the workbook activities. Now, what we did is we discovered again how we can use the board to find the fractions. But what we can also do is to find the equivalent fractions. If you remember 1/3, if you did that activity, 1/3 is the same as 2 6s. They equal to each other. How do I get that? So if I'm going to multiply the 3 with 2 and the 1 with 2, so what I do at the bottom, I do at the top, I'm going to get 2 6s. So I multiply with 2 here, and I multiply with 2 at the top, and I will get an equivalent fraction. So this is what I want you to do in question number 1. Find the equivalent fraction by using the chart, or you just simply multiply the bottom and the top number, so the numerator and the denominator, with the same number. Okay, let's then look at this one. So what we have here is, yes, we can multiply, but what we also note is that we can divide. So to find the equivalent fraction, you can quickly go and find it on the board for 6 12s. You will note it's also 1/2. So what we can do here is I can say 12 divided by 6 is 2, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. So we have 1/2. So I divided at the bottom by 6 and the top by 6. So I divided the numerator by 6 and the denominator by 6. I'm also going to, let's look at K then. So we got 50 hundredths. So what do we get to get that 10? We divide by 10. So what we do at the bottom, we do at the top. So we get 5 tenths. 5 tenths. What do I do to go from 10 to the 2? I divide by 5. So I need to divide that 5 also by 5. So it gives me 1. So it's 1/2. So 50 hundredths is equal to 1/2. So I want you to pause and then complete these. Then what we're going to do is with the equivalent fractions where we have a mixed number. So with the mixed number, we're going to look at the fraction. And what you can do here as well, you can multiply the bottom number and the top number by the same number. So the numerator and the denominator by the same number. I'm going to say one example. So 5 times 2 and 1 times 2. So we can have 2 tenths. So 4 and 2 tenths will be equal to 4 and 1/5. Here again is, I will rather divide than going to multiply. So 2 and 25 hundredths. I'm going to divide by 25 at the top and at the bottom. So 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 2 and 1/4 is equal to 2 and 25 hundredths. Number 4 is a very important activity because later on, if you keep on using the fraction board, this will later come automatically to you. So what you need to do is you need to find and see which is greater. So in this case, 1/2 is bigger than 1/4. Now let's look at the example. This 2 means the one pizza is divided into 2 equal pieces. So if I'm very hungry, will I rather have 1/2 of a pizza or 1/4? Now this means that the one pizza is divided into 4 pieces. So this pizza is divided into 2 and this one in 4. So which one is greater? The half is greater. So now I want you then to complete question number 4. Welcome back. We're going to look at question number 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at number lines and fractions. So the first number line, we got 1 rod. And this rod is then divided into 10 equal pieces. So if we look at the first part, we got 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and you can carry on counting up to 1. You can pause the video now and quickly have a look at this. Then for our second example, we got 1 rod again, but this time it's divided into 1,000 small cubes. So these cubes are all the same size. So if we're going to look at this first part, is we have 100 cubes out of 1,000. So we got 100 thousandths. And then we got 200 thousandths. So I want you to pause and stop here and then count in thousands up to 1. And then also, what does 1 mean? Is 1 equal to 1,000 thousandths? You can pause and quickly answer that question. Well done. So we're going to look at A. So here what we have is we have 1/10 and we got then 100 thousandths. So we're going to ask ourselves, is it bigger, smaller, or equal than? In this case, if we compare the number lines, we look at the diagrams, we see this is equal. Let's go and look at number B. So B, we got 500 thousandths and we got 5/10. We see it is equal. I want you to pause then and do the rest of these examples. Please be careful when you answer your question and look carefully at your diagrams. Then what I want you to do is I want you to do the problem solving. This is just a very basic activity. You can do the extra example here. You can do the question coming from exam papers. And then if you ticked yes on all of them, you can carry on to the next lesson. If you've got a no, you need to revise, revisit certain questions, or you need to contact SATeacher.